Lot to talk about on today's show, including the Bama defense going into spring. 15 practices start this week. Big deal for Alabama. And then the 8A, whatever you want to call it now. Maybe not a game, but something. All of that kind of winding down on April the 12th at Bryant-Denny Stadium. A celebration of something, which is probably Alabama football. But look, we're going to talk about the defense on the show today. Alabama recruiting, building that official visitor list, some interesting names on there. Bama announced their coaches, and then the basketball game. How do you blow a 4-point lead with 30 seconds left? Well, ask Alabama. They did that in Knoxville. What a disappointing loss to a game that they definitely should have won. Talking about all that right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. Brought to you by the great people at Pearl River Resort. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this party started. And let me tell you, from the bottom of my heart, I say this all the time, and I mean it. Roll Tide. What up, everybody? How you doing? Like, subscribe, smash all those buttons, and thank you for being here on the show today at Broadcaster Mick on the socials and talking a little bit of Bama football, Bama basketball too, and we're going to get into that basketball game, and we'll do that later on in the show. But, man, I'm still steaming about the way that they blew that game. All right, we'll get to that later. But let's just start with Alabama spring practice preview. We're going to talk about the defense. We're going to get into the defense right now. And look, there's a lot to get into, and we don't really know like exactly what everything is going to look like. But we have a good idea. And I'm going to start with the secondary and kind of work my way up front. But I feel very confident in Alabama safeties, right? Keon Sabb, who transferred in from Michigan, and I hope Alabama goes and gets more transfers from Michigan. And then Bray Hubbard, two guys that are returning, two guys that you feel very good about. And we loved Bray Hubbard, his ability to tackle, knowing where to be all the time. You know, that he was a guy that just showed up where he was supposed to be. Football is a game of angles, and he played that as well as anything. So then you wonder, you know, about the, you know, kind of the depth in this spot. Well, they're losing Malachi Moore to the NFL, obviously. And one of the players who I thought was really good was Bam Bam Mincy, Zay Mincy. He's a guy that you're going to see a lot of. And he may end up being a starter. I mean, he's going to battle with Hubbard and Sabb, you know, how long, you know, how Sabb going to look after coming back from an injury, whatever. Dre Kirkpatrick, another guy. Bama brought in Ivan Taylor, Ike Taylor's son. Can he come out there and get it done? Cameron Howard is another guy. There's some dudes in that safety group. And I was really impressed with Alabama last year when it felt like, you looked around and you're like, man, how's this? We lost Caleb Downs, right? But they really did well. And I thought that ended up being a very strong group. Now, cornerbacks, I'm, you know, looking at this group and I'm going, okay, you move Jalen Mbakwe to wide receiver. So that opens up the cornerback spot. Now, Damani Jackson's getting one of those starting jobs, right? Xavier Brown obviously had a really good freshman season. Dijon Lee, 5-star coming in. Chuck McDonald, another guy to keep an eye on. I'm really surprised, though, that Mbakwe's not going to play cornerback at all. I thought he would go both ways. But, you know, you got two guys that started all 13 games last year, and Jackson and Brown. You figure you're pretty comfortable in that spot. Also, don't forget about Cameron Calhoun. He's another guy that could potentially, you know, be in there. Remember, Calhoun's the guy that transferred in from Utah. So Bama got him in transfer portal. So he's going to be pushing as well. But I don't know that this group is as deep as, you know, kind of years past, but last year, this was another group right there with the safeties that you felt like, hey, what's this going to look like with all, you losing guys. And remember the whole secondary transferred out. What's going on here when Saban retired? So, yeah, I feel comfortable with those guys, but you don't want any injuries, and you gained experience last year by the fact that you had those guys in there. And and so they played a lot. Now, the Husky position is one that I'm really curious about. Why did Devontae Smith transfer? And that's a tough one. Because look, I thought he was a pretty good player. And we'll see though. Deshaun Jones ended up playing late in the season. You got Red Morgan, who's a guy that's going to be in that position over there. But I hated to see Devontae Smith go. I mean, I just felt like, he was a guy that gave you a lot of depth. Jones pushed really hard for his position. And, and you end up losing a guy that's named after a Heisman Trophy winner, and you lose a guy that transferred to Notre Dame. Yeah. So, and I'd say the SEC is losing a lot of guys to schools in the, kind of in the Big Ten Midwest footprint over NIL money. And if they end up, basically making up rules for that stuff, maybe that some of that will end, but those schools, it's no surprise that Ohio State won. They spent more money than anybody else. And, it is what it is right now, but he's at Notre Dame. Now, inside linebacker, Deontay Lawson back again. I thought Deontay Lawson had played. I mean, I had this guy. I thought he was out of eligibility, but he's had some bad luck with the injuries. When he's in there, he's always good. And you hope that he'll be ready to go to start the season. My friend Clint Lamb at Cover Crimson, and we're on that Cover Crimson message board all the time talking about stuff. He really loves Justin Jefferson. Happy to have him back. And you got a ton of guys that are going to fight for positioning. Luke Metz from Georgia, remember him? He's the recruit who was going to try to fight for some playing time. Abdul Sanders from out in California. Duke Johnson's going to be in there. And then Nakai Hill-Green, who transferred from Colorado, you put him in that mix too. And if something happens, or he might beat out a Lawson or a Jefferson, but he comes in, Ray Lewis type of linebacker, wants to be that guy. He's one of the most important players that Alabama got in the transfer portal. Quentin Reese is a guy. Caden Jones, I think I'm missing some dudes, but I feel like this is a position where Alabama's got experience. They've got some guys that can make some plays. You're trying to replace, Jaheed Campbell, and at least having Deontay Lawson back, if he can stay healthy, that gives you a bunch of experience. Now, when you talk about that bandit position, I feel like the bandit position is the one position on this defense where I love LT Overton. I think we all do, right? He's coming back. He's going to be in there. Jordan Renaud, the guy. Keon Keeley, can he kind of live up to his billing? He's a dude that's in there to try to find playing time in that bandit spot. But you love Overton, and you love what was the guy's name that transferred from Florida? Collins, Kelby Collins. He's another guy that could jump in there and give you some experience and get after it at that bandit spot, right? And that's why you go into the transfer portal. So, and then kind of sliding over from there, on that defensive line, Tim Keenan's back. James Smith is back. You got, a bunch of other dudes that are going to be trying to jump in there and, and do some stuff. You lose Tim Smith, so, I mean, that was a guy I love, Tim Smith. I mean, that felt like Tim Smith played 80 years at Alabama, but Edric Hill, I could get some playing time there at defensive tackle, that tackle spot. Faga, Simmons, kind of young guys that could be in there. Beeman, check him out too. But Bama's got some guys there. I still feel like Bama isn't quite the same Bama that they used to be on defense. And who, when you had Saban as your head coach, you had those guys. And then the Wolf position, you're talking about Quay Russo. And then, after that, Jamarian Latham and Noah Carter, two guys that I think are gonna be pushing for time. How's Justin Hill gonna look? Devontae Henry, but still, these are the practices where you get those guys in there. And don't forget about Yanze Pierre. I mean, this guy was one of the really, where you look around and you're like, man, this guy's pretty good. Coming off that edge, putting some pressure on the quarterback. So they went out there and they tried to find some depth at that Wolf spot, but that's the defense. And there's going to be some other dudes as well, but just throwing it out there, I'm looking and I'm going, hey, I am excited to see what Kane Womack is doing. And the defense wasn't the problem last year. They really got after it with that swarm. And so spring practice will kind of give us that. Now, I'm going to talk more about this on upcoming shows, but just kind of switching gears, Alabama building a really super elite visitor list to the university to check out what's going on in Tuscaloosa. Now, you got to knock some of these guys down, right? But every time I turn around, I'm looking at Hayes Fawcett's On 3 Twitter, and he's like, hey, Jamarian Matthews is coming, the 4-star edge from Gainesville, Georgia. Okay. Hey, he's already committed, but these guys, like, you want to get them in the town because they're not, even if they're committed, they're not there until they're there. Right. And so you're starting to see players that are, hey, going to come and visit soon, or that are going to come and visit this summer. And so I kind of want to get into those. We talked about Sincere Johnson, the linebacker from Cleveland, Ohio, a couple of days ago. He'll be there May 30th to June 2nd. That's a big target for Alabama. A lot of people feel like he's going to end up at Ohio State, but Bama is going to try to rip him away from them. Another Bama commitment. Chris Booker is going to be there that same time. And then guys that aren't committed to Alabama, Brody Jennings, he's a 4-star from Florida, from Jacksonville, Florida. He's a Michigan commit. Hey, if you're Alabama, it's time to start targeting some of those Michigan guys. But we'll talk more about the visitor list and just let you know it's growing, and recruiting-wise, Bama is continuing to get things done. Now, the coaching staff was announced for the season, right? And I mean, there's really no surprise on, who the coaches are. I mean, we cover this honestly on a daily basis. Not a whole lot of changes, but one big change, obviously Kalen DeBoer is the head coach, but Ryan Grubb as offensive coordinator, DeBoer getting his guy back this year, Brian Ellis doing tight ends, Robert Gillespie, assistant head coach and running backs, Coach Cap, offensive line, Jamarcus Shepard, the assistant head coach, co-offensive coordinator, does wide receivers. Nick Sheridan, co-offensive coordinators, does quarterbacks. Then on the defense, Kane Womack, coordinator. Maurice Lindquist, co-coordinator, defensive backs. Jason Jones, assistant defensive backs coach, and it was good to have him back, former Bama player. Chuck Morrell, the linebackers coach. Christian Robinson, outside linebackers. Freddie Roach, former Bama player, associate head coach in defensive lines. And then Jay Nunez is the special teams coordinator. So that's your coaching staff right now. Didn't have a whole lot of changes, but you did get Coach Grubb from the NFL, and DeBoer has his guy back. So we'll see if that makes a difference. I think it will. All right, final thing I want to get into. And it is Bama blowing the Tennessee basketball game, 79-76. Every time I talk basketball, catfish courtside, you guys, you're finicky about your hoops. It's getting to that time of year. Bama blowing that game gives Auburn the SEC, but they've got to do a better job. You got a 4-point lead with 30 seconds left. Thought they played hard. They didn't make many shots. They had open looks. They didn't take care of them, but they did enough to win the game, except they didn't. And then the 5-second, at the end of the game, they give up the half-court shot or whatever it was to win, and they deserved it because Tennessee should have never had the ball at the end of the game. They should have never even been in the game. Really, they were down 4. All Bama had to do was just rebound the free throw. These are the mistakes that this team's going to have to take care of if they want to be national champions. And they've had a fantastic season, and I love Nate Oates. And honestly, I thought Grant Nelson played strong. Clifford Amore was in there fighting for boards, but you got to put the ball through the hoop. And you got to play till the buzzer sounds. It was honestly one of the most disappointing losses. And it was disappointing just because they had it. They should have won the game. The effort was there, but the execution wasn't there. And then moving forward, you got Florida and you got Auburn. You got 2 games left, and it's 2 top teams. But you could have gone into Knoxville and beaten Tennessee on their home court. And I'm hoping that this is the last loss Bama's going to have for a while. But if they don't play better, they're going to waste one of the best teams that Alabama's ever had in hoops. And this game, they lost because they didn't do the little things right. They didn't take care of the details at the end of the game. And I think some of those calls were stupid by the officials, but look, that you can't leave it up to them. They went from calling no fouls to all of a sudden they got whistle happy at the end of the game. But Bama still should have won. You guys tell me what you think in the comments section, and let me know. And tell me what you guys think, and we'll get into that on here every day. All right. Hey, a couple things I want to talk about. First off, I want to tell you that we're brought to you by our friends over at New Life Art, newlifeart.com. Promo code Bama Tailgate. Bama Tailgate's going to get you 25% off, and I'm going to get you 25% off with the Super Bowl champs, right? Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith and his amazing catch where he high-pointed the ball against LSU. Bama won the national championship, and that's the last, that 2020, that's the last championship they've won. So that's one of them. And then quarterback Jalen Hurts and his Crimson Redemption, those 2 right there. They're available to you guys, 25% off, Bama Tailgate, newlifeart.com. Take advantage of it. And finally, I want to say this. Love everyone at Pearl River Resort and all the great help that we've gotten from there. We appreciate them so much. And what I want to tell you is that go over to the Timeout Sports Lounge, take advantage of the short drive from Tuscaloosa, 1.5 hours, 2 hours from Birmingham and change. It's like going to Vegas, get away. It's easy driving. It's not a lot of traffic. And when you get there, you have a great time. Philip M. Steakhouse, if you want to go fine dining, Mom and Them's Restaurant, get the Circle Bar, Blue Oyster Cult is going to be there. Great songs like Don't Fear the Reaper and Godzilla, one of those classic groups. Maybe Will Ferrell will show up and play the cowbell. And then Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. It's the Augusta you can play. So take advantage of all that. We appreciate them so much. Roll Tide, everybody. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. I mean, getting closer. We got football practice coming up. How about that? You excited about that? Football practice? I think it's tomorrow, isn't it?
To Pearl River Resort.